She made it back to the Airbnb with everything they wanted. A bag of Doritos and Oreos to fill Anna's junk food cravings, a case of High Life for Ben, and a jar of blue cheese olives for Liz. She was wondering why she always liked such odd snacks. Was that a weird snack? Either way, it wasn't her place to judge. When she approached the house, she noticed that the electricity was out. It must have been because of the storm. No big deal, she thought. She had good friends to keep her company. As she closed the door, she noticed the TV was playing. There was electricity after all. Thank God, she thought. Movie night could continue on as planned. She flipped on the light almost instantly. The hair stood up on the back of her neck. Her senses were telling her that something was very, very wrong. There was an extreme silence that was only broken by the very light sound of a hum. It sounded like it could have been the TV, maybe. Paranoid, she quietly sat the grocery bags down in the foyer and began to walk into the kitchen. She immediately lost her breath, and the feeling of her stomach dropping made it feel she had left her body. Anna's hands laid folded neatly in a proper position over the linen on the dinner table, where they were sharing memories from senior year the night before. There were no arms or any other part of her body attached. The hum stopped as soon as they encountered the scene, and the silence was broken by a very light movement in the darkness near the door where she entered. The shadow was darker than the rest of the house. The light she had turned on was now off, and there was a loud clank as the door handle she had closed fell on the tile. All she could remember thinking was that if you ever see something darker than the dark itself, then it was time to run. Is that the saying? She immediately dashed for the door, but when she saw the handle on the ground, she gave up on the door that was stuck. After turning and running the opposite direction of the dinner table, she found herself in the living room. The fear became worse, and she could hear her heart beating. It was pounding out of her chest. After rounding the corner, what she saw only increased the fear. Sitting on the couch where they had watched their favorite movie, The Void, rested the ribcage of her childhood friend, Ben. It almost seemed like the heart she heard was his. She began to gasp for air as fear was overtaking her. She stumbled forward and ran further into the home. All she wanted was a night away from the pressures of being in school and working full-time to spend with her friends and focus on the simpler things in life. She could feel herself giving into the fear as she continued to run through the house. She ran into the bedroom and slammed the door shut. The sound of the hum was back now. It was the ceiling fan turning with the weight attached to it that caused the noise. Liz was swinging in circles with the edges of her mouth cut into a distorted smile that almost seemed demonic. The fan continued to rotate, but she was tied to it and continued to only face one direction, seemingly staring right into her eyes with that contorted smile. She let out a cry that reverberated through the entire house as she made one last dash for the bathroom. She managed to make it and lock the door. It was dark. It seemed like an eternity. But then the sound of the hum stopped again. The silence was back. As she sat there in the pitch-black silence, all she could think was that if you see something darker than dark itself, then it was only a matter of time. Is that how it goes? She took a deep breath as the door came down. A deep black hole into the void was all she could see, with the cold tiles pressed against her skin. She finally remembered what it actually meant when something is darker than dark itself. It was darker than the dark. She stared forward. The last thing she saw was the silhouette of a wide-brimmed black hat.